Okay. I get hat hit a lot. Okay, well, I was going to talk to you about Star Trek because it's comes up from time to time that the lessons that you get from watching in Star Trek are still waiting to be played out on planet Earth. So, without further ado, I'm going to put on these glasses, and if I could put my hair back, if I had a good haircut, and I put my hair back, and I put on a really nice business suit, I would be a character called Bella Oxmix. And he's a human, but they don't call them humans. He's an Ionian. And Ionian planet looks like planet Earth in the 1920s in, let's say, New York or Chicago. And what's going on? Pretty much mobster rules. Bella Oxmix is a businessman. And he's into all kinds of businesses. And in essence, Bella Oxmix is the president of his territory. And there's other territories. And there's presidents of other territories. So how this works is, if they can do business, they do business. But if business deals go bad, they don't take it to court. What they do is they send a bunch of guys over to the other part of town with Tommy guns. A Tommy gun is a very advanced weapon. It's a machine gun. And they use it to play shoot 'em up. So, the episode is called A Piece of the Action, Star Trek, the original series, and you can get it on Netflix. So, if you want to pause me right here and go on Netflix and watch that episode, go and do it right now. Doing the Jeopardy song. Okay, that's enough time in between, so either you went to watch it or you're going to continue watching the video. So I'm not going to give you a spoiler alert warning, I just did. Okay, so what happens in this particular episode? What happens is Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock come to this planet and they get kidnapped. Because that's basically what keeps happening in mobster rule. So it's kind of a show of force. Who's got the biggest Tommy gun? And so in the end, Kirk calls up Scotty up on the ship and says, okay, I want you to put the phasers, the ship's phasers on stun and cover like a 2-block radius around the building that I'm in here. Okay, and let him have it. So Scotty fires the phasers. Everyone that's shooting each other with Tommy guns, they all fall down, passed out, because they were stunned. And this demonstration of force is way more powerful than any of these people, these Ionians, have got. So they say, fine, you've got the biggest Tommy gun, Mr. Kirk. We're gonna make a deal with you. Lo and behold, what happens is Kirk, on behalf of the Federation, who are the ones that build these starships, says to Bella Oxmix, there's Bella. Bella says, fine. Okay, what's the deal, Mr. Kirk? And Kirk says, look, you're going to form a syndicate. So instead of you all fighting one another, you're going to work together. Bella, you got the biggest territory, the most money, the most guys. You're the boss. And then the guy who's in the neighboring territory, who's the second business, he's going to be your lieutenant. And everybody else is going to be part of the syndicate, and you're going to split the proceeds of all your profits among yourselves based upon your seniority in this organization. Plus, Kirk cut the Federation in for 30%. 30% of the take goes to the Federation. And Kirk's plan is every year the Federation is going to send a starship to Ionia, collect their 30%, and then the Federation is going to spend the 30% on things like libraries and education systems for the Ionians. Sound good? All right. What's going on planet Earth? Time and again, I don't have to even tell you, there's extraterrestrials. Everyone knows there's extraterrestrials. There has to be. There's too many stars out there and too many galaxies for us to be all alone. Therefore, and you think about how advanced we are, we're not very advanced. How advanced are we? We got these computers and things. I know, but we just got these computers. These smartphones. How old are these smartphones? We're just, we got these technologies, and our society is basically, am I Bella Oxmix or am I President Donald Trump? Mr. Trump has got the biggest army. Who's the second biggest? I don't know. Maybe he's not the biggest anymore. We don't really know. They don't tell us. In any event, planet Earth is still run like the 1920s mobster rule. So what are the extraterrestrials doing? Have they set it up this way? And are they taking a cut? I only say this because art imitates life. And if they put it out in Star Trek that this was happening on another planet, I think it's happening here on planet Earth. And maybe the extraterrestrials aren't extraterrestrials, but maybe there's some other thing. I don't know, but, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm just going to say that. So, what happens with the Ionians? How many years go by where it's still mob rule and the Federation comes around once a year and collects their money and then reinvests it on educational pursuits and maybe hospitals and things like this? It's not known. generations and generations of Ionians, maybe they get sort of the idea that the Federation looks after the social welfare of the planet, and the rest of us, we get to do business. So, I don't know what else to tell you about this particular action, except I discovered, this piece of the action, episode Star Trek original series, about 1967, 1968. 50 years ago. Well, I was scanning through Amazon.com, and I discovered, because I was looking for Bella, ex-Oxmix, Bella, just to see what else was written about Bella. And lo and behold, there is a book where Bella comes back as Bella. Spoiler alert again, you can go look for the book. I can't remember the name of the book, but you can go look for it. And there is one on Amazon.com about Bella Oxmix and another. What's happening with Bella? Apparently, Bella really understood Kirk, because in addition to 30% of the take for the Federation, Bella Oxmix put aside a certain sum for Captain Kirk personally, because he was a captain. And if you think of the mafia, a mafia captain or a capo is a senior officer of the syndicate and deserves to be paid. So Captain Kirk, he didn't set it up that way, but Oxmix set it up so that there was funds for personal use by Captain Kirk. What all he does with all that, I don't know. I haven't read the book, but that's why it's really fun to have great characters in your stories, like Bella Oxmix, because they can be used again and again and again and again, because they have wonderful personalities, and they helped you to get interested in watching Star Trek again. What else do I want to tell you? Now, if you go look up this particular episode, piece of the action, it says that in Earth years, the time when Captain Kirk goes for the first time to the Ionian planet, the year is 2268. More or less 240 years from now. So, on this timeline, in order for us on planet Earth to develop far enough so that we've got starships that can go from here to other stars in our galaxy, Star Trek the original series was based in our galaxy. We have got to get going on Star Drive. What else? Well, how much more advanced are those people in Star Trek, like the people on the starship, than us as people? Mr. Spock is from another planet. He has superior intelligence, incredible abilities to do calculations like math in his head. He has weeded out emotions. So he's more an advanced person, we would say. What else would we say? It's hard to say. Is Captain Kirk, the Captain Kirk in the series, is he more advanced human than let's say, a captain of a U.S. aircraft carrier. I've never met someone who's commanded anything militarily. I just haven't. I don't live anywhere near a military base. I've lived in a number of different cities, and I've never met anybody like that. So, but there's a wonderful story about a Canadian colonel a senior officer. Canada doesn't have a lot of generals. It's not that big of a country, not that big of a military force. So there's not a lot of generals, there's not a lot of colonels. So if you're a colonel, you are a big wig in the Canadian military. Well, it turns out this colonel was a pilot, and he flew around the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper. And he was convicted of being a peeping Tom rapist. How does that make you feel about it makes me think, I think I'm not very impressed. I am really not impressed. Now, this guy has besmirched the reputation of all the other officers. So, we have 240 years before we go and meet the Ionians. I mean, we've got to get somebody there who is more advanced than this particular colonel. How's that going to happen in 240 years? That's not that long in the future. It's not very long in the future. So there's going to have to be a lot of improvement in the consciousness of humans. Which means a lot of integrity. Integrity. We're going to have to really work on developing integrity. Someone says ethics. I mean, they teach ethics. I was taught ethics in business school in the 1980s. What's the ethics of business on this planet? It's the shits. Unethical business is everywhere. Everywhere. You can teach ethics, but it ain't going to happen. Because if you put ethics up against, I got to have profits every quarter to report. If I'm not making profits, then somebody else is. So if I got to cut corners to make profits, at least I'm going to have a job. And that's the way it's run on planet Earth. I've said before, I mean, you look at, enormous corporations that have got great brand names, and they have horrible reputations. In any event, you don't need to go too far to see humans just need a lot more integrity. Now, moving along, what else do you want to talk about when it comes to this Star Trek episode? Okay, this had Harley Davidson. What do I want to talk about that's related to Harley Davidson? When I was in business school in the 1980s, we did a case study. A case study is you basically given a bunch of information about a company, what the company's, just whatever you get, and then you, as a business student, have got to take what your professor told you to do, analyze the case, and write it up, and then submit it, or maybe present it to the class. That's how you're graded. And one of the cases that we did was Harley Davidson. And the case was in the 1980s. What's going on with Harley these days? I have no idea. But the story was Harley was suffering bad sales because people were buying Japanese Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda. And what was the problem? What's the problem? How would you find out what the problem is? Why aren't, if you were the owner of Harley and you see that your sales are crappy compared to the Japanese manufacturers, what do? Well, you hire a business person who knows what to look for to study the market, study the companies, and come up with the answer, and then present this is the plan of action for getting Harleys to sell again. As far as I remember, the number one problem with Harley back in those days, and I'm not sure exactly when the case was written because, they write these cases, submit them to you, and, it could have been 10 years earlier that this was happening. But sometime in the past, Harley Davidson had a quality problem. They had awesome graphics, and they had a cool factor, and they had movies like Easy Rider with Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper starring in them. So they had a cool factor, but they were falling down because the bikes kept breaking down. Bad quality. And the Japanese models, they were reliable, and they went fast, and they had a good name because of it. So, in essence, what Harley had to do was fix their quality problems. And it wasn't just Harley in the United States, it was the automotive sector in general. America, was making cars that full of amazing marketing programs, but the quality of the cars suffered. And you could get people the first time to buy the car because it looked cool and had cool marketing, sexy marketing. But once people experienced ownership of this car and it was a lemon, they still call them lemons. I don't know if cars are lemons anymore. In those days, a lemon was a car that was constantly having to go to the shop for repairs. It's Christopher Isherwood here. I'm a novelist, and I don't want to tell you too many other things other than thank you for sticking around with us because we're at the 23-minute mark, and if you're still here, good on you. We always wonder because, some of our videos do go long, and we were told many years ago that young people's attention span was very short. In business school, it was about 10 seconds. In other words, if we lost your interest in any 10-second mark, you would change the channel on the television. And this is kind of like a television. So I don't know because I don't get feedback. When I'm looking at number of views, it doesn't tell me, did the person look at the whole video? They start watching for the first 10 seconds and then they hung up. I don't know. That's a problem with YouTube, statistics, analytics. So what does it mean? It means just I could be talking and thinking people are watching and nobody watches the video. But This is Christopher's book. It's my book. There he is down there at the bottom. Swami somebody or other, and Christopher Isherwood wrote this book. It's hard to see because of it's a big plasticky. How to Know God, Yoga Aphorisms of Patanjali. And you see him in the middle. He's a yogi from India, and he's got a student here. So he's training his student in the ways of being a yogi. All right, that's my book. What I want to talk about. Two hats are better than one. I look like a biplane. How about two heads are better than one? All right, I made my point. My point is that book, it was two people who are considered the, what are they? Well, they put there as authors, but this is an old book, and this is actually a translation. So what happens is the aphorisms are small little bits of information that came from another language. So we arranged to have them translated, and then we did the commentary to explain what they mean in English. Why do we need two? Well, I'm a novelist. I'm good at writing in English. So it's an interesting book. It makes sense to an English reader. Swami Prabhavananda is going to be an expert in this stuff because he's a Swami. Is he good at English? I'm an actor. I never met Christopher Isherwood, and I never met the Swami. I don't know how good the Swami's English is. I don't know how they set it up. But I'm going to put the Christopher hat on again and see what Christopher says. All right, so this is the way it works. The Swami I needed because I need to have an official sanction from somebody from India who's known as a spiritual authority. So they got to have a Swami name, Pandit, Guru, something like that to make it sound like it's from India and it's someone who knows what they're talking about. And then I need me because I'm, the novelist, and I can bring a huge audience with me because people know me. Back in the day, they really knew me because, of my Broadway smash cabaret. The question is, was there really a Swami? Or was Christopher the Swami too? So I looked it up on Wikipedia, and the Swami apparently was a real person. I didn't know from the book because it didn't say in the actual book. So I was going down the road that perhaps Christopher Isherwood was playing the part of a Swami. It says that Christopher Isherwood was a disciple of that Swami. That Swami. Swami, what's a Swami? Sandwich? Any event? Where else am I going to go with this book? I was going to do something else, but I think we're going to save it for another episode. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. And don't forget to tell everybody about my long-winded talks about obscure subjects. Oh dear, I forgot. We got people like Stewie who are not satisfied with this ending. Stewie says, "Bugger off, you cannot stop and not tell me more. You just get me interested in the subject, and I need to know more, damn you." Alright. Well, just give me a second. Okay, Stewie, I'm going into the translator's foreword of the book. This book was published in 1953. And it says, the majority of Western psychotherapists do not as yet recognize the existence of the Atman, meaning the Godhead within man, and do not therefore help their patients achieve the union of perfect yoga. Some of the physiotherapists, according to this foreword, say, we're taking an interest in yoga. We help our patients to a certain point, to an adequate degree, and beyond that we're not ready to go. We recognize the possibility of a higher spiritual integration, but we prefer not to make it a part of our therapy because we believe that the two should be kept separate. If a patient wants spiritual integration, we can only send him to a yoga teacher or a minister of religion. Where we leave off, yoga begins. And they say and there, for the present, the problem rests. That was 1953. Where are our physiotherapists, psychotherapists? Oh. So, back to Stewie. He says, he's dumbfounded. He says, in other words, the Indian spiritual tradition from ancient India is superior to Western psychotherapy. I guess we all need to move to India. That's it. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and share.